Welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. My name is Rob Murgatroyd, and I am a former doctor turned lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I interview some of the best minds on the planet on the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Today's episode is a mini-sode that we call Fri-Date with the Wife. In these mini-sodes, my wife Kim and I deconstruct the strategies that we've developed over the last decade to not only grow personally, but to turn our struggles into lessons and create fulfillment in all areas of our lives. Excuses are over. It's time to live. Let's dig into today's topic. All right, before we jump into this episode, I want to invite you to be considered for my Work Hard, Play Hard Mastermind by completing an application at workhardplayhardmastermind.com. So this mastermind is not like any mastermind you may have been to or heard of, I promise you. This mastermind is for 6 to 7 figure entrepreneurs that are working too damn much and aren't taking the time to have amazing experiences around the world with an incredible tribe of people. So every 100 days or so, I drop you into new experiences that are specifically designed to elevate your thinking, to give you new ideas. Look, you get your best ideas not staring at a computer. And actually, this is the way high-level people really collaborate with each other. They do it over a glass of champagne, watching the sunset in the south of France. So if you are ready to do some fun stuff around the world and really, really want to level up your tribe in one shot, fill out an application at workhardplayhardmastermind.com. We'll jump on a call and we'll see if it's a good fit. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Kimberly, welcome to the shit show, Murgatroyd. How?
That actually made me laugh.
So today, what are we talking about?
Okay, so the other morning, we got to do something we rarely get to do, which was sit and talk. And I'm not exactly sure how the gods aligned that morning.
I know how it was.
Was she not here?
No, your friend was in town for the weekends. You got up early to take her to the airport.
I was up at 5 a.m.
So you were up at the time when I was up, which means that was not up. And we were able to actually have
an hour.
We had a conversation for an hour. I don't know that we have had a Sunday morning conversation for an hour.
That wasn't about business or to-do lists or tasks.
But regardless what it was about, the fact that we were able to actually have it.
So we had this conversation and, we are moving to Italy. So we've made a decision that we are moving to Italy. The timeline is not as certain as we are about the actual event of moving, but we believe it is going to be in the next, let's call it 2 years. So we were sitting and chatting about, what it's going to be like and what we're excited about, because we're actually getting really excited about this decision. And I told Rob, I said, I love him in Italy. Like, I love you here too. So don't get me wrong. But there's something about you when we are in Italy that is different. And I told him, I said, you don't twitch. Like, you don't walk around twitching.
I twitch. I'm a twitcher. And there you go. It's off.
He walks around and
Flipper has blown her spout.
Oh, he's referring to our kindergartner in the other room doing kindergarten. Here in the U.S., he walks around kind of twitching, and he has more things on his to-do list than he has time for. He double books, triple books himself, so he's in massive overwhelm. And it's interesting because all of this was provoked. This conversation was provoked from my friend Chris being here. And she asked, we were sitting on the beach, and she said, what is different living here than living in Atlanta? Because she was my friend. She lives in Atlanta. She was my friend in Atlanta.
Is Atlanta, she asked about Atlanta or Italy?
So she asked, what's the difference living here versus living in Atlanta? And also what we believe the difference will be living in Italy. And so there was a really interesting conversation that she and I kind of had on the beach about it and about what the differences are for us. And, one of which was how Rob acts. And when we were in Atlanta, It was grinding, finding a coffee shop, and then which of the 3 restaurants will we go to dinner to? There was no outdoor life. There was no, like, we lived in a high rise. We lived in a fish tank.
You said how Rob acts, or she said how Rob acts?
I did. She asked me what the difference was in living in Atlanta, California, and then Italy, and how I perceive those to be different.
Okay.
And so Atlanta to me was very kind of one-dimensional. It was like we woke up, we went to work, we went to school, we, found a coffee shop, and we sat in the coffee shop and worked, and then we ate dinner. Like, it was very like, whatever. There's not, like, on the weekend you go to the mall.
It was very Truman Showy.
It was just like there wasn't a whole lot of life there, right? Now we come to California, and ironically, there's no like coffee shop culture. You don't go to a coffee shop here and people are like working. That doesn't exist, or at least I haven't seen it. And
in fairness for people that are like living in LA and go, what are you talking about? There's coffee shops everywhere. California is filled with coffee shops.
Right.
But right now, number one, with COVID, most of them are only outdoor only, which is not a big problem here in California. But in the small town in which we live, there's one coffee shop.
Yeah.
And that one coffee shop
there.
has like one table that's outside that they're not even
That's
using.
what I mean.
So it exists, but not where we live.
But there's not that culture. The culture of sitting and working all day in a coffee shop is not a thing here. We live a life here where things are outdoors, where you work until 1 and you go to the beach. And everybody is living an outdoor life. All the kids walk to school for the most part because it's like 1 square mile, right? The kids are playing volleyball on the beach. They're bike riding. They're skateboarding. Yes, they use their phones, but they're not just sitting inside, on their phone all the time, because I see them all at the beach all the time, or I see them outdoors and in the parks and, whatever. So the difference for me in what Rob and I had a conversation about that morning was, in Atlanta, I feel like there was like not a whole lot of things going on with your senses. If you think like sight, touch, hearing, all of those things, like your senses, there's not a whole lot going on. You come to California and you can smell the ocean, and it's sunny, and there's life. And so there's a bit more on the senses. But what we figured out is Italy is an assault on the senses nonstop. And I think the more that your senses are awakened, the more awakened you are. So Rob, to get back to the difference I see in you, in the US, Atlanta and here, you walk around with telling me how much you have on your list to do today. But when we were in Italy, you're writing. The biggest component that I saw come out of you was your ability to write like Under the Tuscan Sun style. Your ability to sit and be present in a moment. Like, you are never present in a moment here, ever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And, it until somebody sort of points it out, you don't really see it. So, part of the conversation that we had over the course of that hour, when I said it or you said it, I don't recall, we both went, oh shit, that's exactly what it is. And Kim alluded to it a moment ago when she said, all my senses come alive. And here's the thing. It's a bit of a mind fuck, because living in Atlanta was, for me, no knock to Atlanta. I have tons of friends in Atlanta, and I do love the city of Atlanta. It was a great town. It was perfect for me. But for me, it was a 5. It was just a scale of 1 to 10. It was a 5. And when we moved to California, it went to a 10. I mean, it felt like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. The weather's perfect every day. I'm surfing.
It's like vacation.
It's vacation. It's literally perfect. But there's this thing that's been calling with Italy. And when I go to Italy, it's a 10. So it's like you have these two things in your mind. It's like, well, this is a 10. How can this be a 10 and how can that be a 10?
And they're so different. Because one is perfect sunshine and the other one, it's like, it could rain, it could snow, and like Rob's a weather geek, so he's obsessed with sunshine. But when you're there, you walked in the rain and loved it, right?
Yeah. So, the difference when you're looking at you got a 10 here and you got a 10 there, you're trying to figure out, well, what's the difference? What's the difference between the two? And the conversation that we had really highlighted what the difference is. And the reason why we're sharing this with you today is I think that you'll be able to see yourselves in this story. So for those of you that have been to places that inspire you, and it could be Europe, it could be Hawaii, I don't know, whatever it is for you, it typically winds up becoming, when it's really, really engaging for you, it winds up becoming an assault on your senses. So for example, when I'm walking down cobblestone streets in Rome, the sensation of my feet walking on the cobblestones is quite different and makes you...
You mean in the stiletto when you're tripping?
When I have heels, yeah. And it makes you think about the horses that, may have were drawn through those streets on carriages. And as you're smelling the smells of, as you can imagine, even if you haven't been to Italy, as you're smelling the Italian food from the pastries in the morning to the dinners in the evening, certainly your olfaction becomes alive. And then visually, Florence is the city that inspired us the most. Florence is, I Googled what is the most beautiful city in the world, and Florence popped up as number one across multiple different places. So you're visually in the city that is so unbelievably beautiful because it's quite literally designed by Michelangelo, right? So now you've got this visual and you got this smell, and then you have this, this sing-song sound of the language that is this cacophony that is surrounding you all day long that, just sounds beautiful. I mean, no knock to Germans, but the language is a bit more guttural, right? So it's not that beautiful.
Well, it's not a Romance language.
It's not a Romance language. But when you hear Italian, something about it, even if you don't know what the fuck they're saying, something about it is so inviting. And, I can go on and on, but you get the idea. And when I compare that to living in Hermosa, I can't do the same thing. I can talk about the feet on my sand when I get to the beach, but that's kind of where it stops. And I can talk about looking out at the, being in the ocean and smelling the salt and looking out over Catalina or Malibu while I surf, but that's kind of where it stops there too. And I can't listen to the sounds of the language. I can't hear, I don't have the deep connection.
Well, there is a California style in language.
Just Google Saturday Night Live Californians and you'll know what I'm talking about. So it is a 10, but it's not a 10 in that way. And so that led us into a much deeper conversation. So, we're trying to take you guys on a journey with us, right? So, many of you have been listening to this since we've been in Atlanta, and we talked about, our desire to move here. And it was certainly a step up. I mean, it was certainly a massive improvement. I mean, anybody would argue from a 5 to a 10, this is great. But now we're looking and saying, okay, well, once you've tasted, chocolate, you know what the bench line is and the benchmark is, and you want to hit that standard. So because we've been to Italy and we know what that feels like, we couldn't figure out what the hell was missing. Like why, what are we complaining about? But there's an inner being, there's an inner voice, and there's something inside of you that's saying, in our case, that's whispering Italy, and trying to figure out why. And I think I've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. When I had a conversation with a coach friend of mine, I said, I'm just really confused because I love California and I love Italy, and I don't really know where the fuck I would live. They're both 10s for me. And he said, well, if you had 2 years left to live, where would you live? And that legacy question for me was super clear in my answer. The answer for me was Italy. And I was like, okay, well, why is it Italy? And then that led into this conversation.
So I think there's a couple of points here to mention. I think in America, we get so lost in work. And work is my passion and work is my this. And I think a lot of it is just excuses for more work. And the American dream, right? This country is founded on the American dream where you can keep growing. And there's so much beauty and wonderfulness, is that a word? In that.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar. But the flip side of that kind of work is here when we go out with friends and we meet up with friends for dinner or whatever. the common conversation is, so what's next for you in business? What's the next course you're working on? What's the next thing? What's your next thing you're going to hurdle and tackle? And, that's the conversation pretty much 9 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go in Europe, that didn't come up for 4 months in conversation with people, unless we brought it up as the Americans. And it wasn't there. So again, like, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. There is an element of work and entrepreneurship that's exciting and, great. And you can achieve great things and do great things. And it's amazing. And I think that we do it to a fault. And I think there has to be a bit more of a balance. So for us, having the natural American drive in us, but plopping our asses in Italy is kind of the hybrid that we're looking for. That way we can truly live the expansion of life, because life is so much more than work. And when you're in a country like that, when you're around people that life is the priority and not work, that there's a more well-rounded fulfillment. And I think that's the thing that invokes it the most. So although not everyone can or even wants to pick up and move to another country, I think there are things that you can do in your current day-to-day life to acknowledge, are you living with all of the senses?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of what you said in there that really rings true for me. And a couple of things were popping up that I wanted to highlight for people that are, trying to figure out what's next for them and what does their dream life look like.
Or figure out what I'm saying after 2 cups of coffee.
Well, we have sort of become the poster children for, helping people live their dream life. And it's not because, we woke up one morning and said, let's go out and become the dream life people. But we wanted to expand our life and we wanted to make it better. And as a result of that, we're taking a bite out of lots of different pasta, trying to figure out what works best for us. And, I think you have to ask yourself, what is it that is expanding to you versus, you used the word expanding and that stuck out for me. Mm-hmm. Is it expanding you or is it contracting you, right? Everything is either expanding or contracting. There's an inner knowing inside of us, the internal guidance system, right? That inner being, that self, that inner GPS that is taking us on the road. And we're constantly getting, feedback of what it is. Like, I'll give you an example.
Uh-oh.
You said something to me this morning that made logical sense to me. But there was something inside of my being, as you were saying it, I was like, no. But it made such logical sense to me that I'm like, yeah, of course, that makes the most sense. Let's just do that. But inside me, I was like, no, that's really not a good idea. And I'm learning to listen to that contraction that I'm feeling versus the expand, like, oh, that is an amazing idea. Mm-hmm. And the reverse is true too. Like when you broach the subject, and I don't remember how it came up. It was probably Sunday after a couple of mimosas. But, when we broached the idea of like, after like, I was surfing or whatever, going like, I love it here. The conversation comes up like, hey, want to move to Italy? What are you talking? Like, I'm really happy here. Like, I really love it here. And we moved our entire life across the country to have this thing. And yet, it was expansive to me, and it felt good to me. It wasn't contracting.
So listening to that internal guidance system on where to go next and how to go next, and not listening to necessarily the logic, right? Like, I can have a conversation with someone about their business and they'll be like, yeah, and so the next thing I'm going to do is, and they talk about this massive undertaking that's about to happen, or like they want, I was actually talking to somebody the other day and they own car dealerships. And they were like, yeah, I'm going to add a third one by the end of the year. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And she's like, I am so overwhelmed, so stressed, so this, so that. And I was like, so let me ask you a question. If you're really overwhelmed, why are you adding a third one? And she's like, I don't know. It's the next step. And so sometimes people take on this massive stress because it's the next step to success. Because again, What's your next thing? What's the next level? The bigger, the better, the bigger, the better. Like, what happened to living a life and going, God, I'm living a really amazing life right now. And why don't I put some energy into other areas of my life instead of just business that are going to light me up? And I'll tell you what, mark my words, when we make this shift and we make this move, I think business-wise, we are going to explode to a whole different level because we are going to be living in our most creative, aligned self. And that's where I think people like go a little awry, is they're not aligned in either where they live or what they're doing or how they're living. And once they get into that alignment, that's when the success happens. And for us, I feel like our alignment is in Europe. I feel like our creativity is in Europe. I feel like taking that step back to get re-inspired. I feel like for us, that's what it is. For other people, it could be a million other things. But I feel like alignment is what creates that trigger for massive success.
Yeah. What's interesting about this is, we've gotten, I don't know how many comments on iTunes we have that are 5-star. I'm going to blow our own horn here for a second. We've got a lot of 5-star comments. You guys are raving.
Thank you. And if you haven't commented, go leave us one.
You guys are raving fans. And this, it really is a big deal to us that you listen to the show, because we really, really listen to your feedback. Every message you send us, we read and we have a discussion about. We talk about, is this something that we want to share? And invariably we do. I would say 9 out of 10 times when you guys make a suggestion, we will touch on that subject.
And how about all the people that reach out and tell you that you need to be a better husband?
Yeah, that's
that last episode.
That's another one.
And he's a great husband for anyone that has reached out.
But here's what I wanted to say about that.
I'm pulling him off course right now and his brain is frying.
That's okay. I forgot what the fuck I was going to say. I wanted to say,
5-star comments.
That there was one 1-star comment. And the 1-star comment was, I'm tired of their American bashing. And I'm sensitive, and it was like a year ago. I'm sensitive to it because once somebody puts that in your mind, you're sensitive and you want to be politically correct. So I hope that this doesn't come across as American bashing in any way, because it isn't. It's more of a dream life thing of what lights us up, and it could be that it was Hawaii, so it's not America per se. It is, for whatever the reason is, our personalities are lending itself to finding inspiration.
What happened to being a global citizen? So America aside, America bashing, I'm sorry, mi dispiace, but that was in Italian. Good. That was a good way to do it, right? Yeah. I mean, you're probably, whoever hates the American bashing is probably not currently listening. But what happened to being a global citizen? Like somewhere along the line in this world, we were just one world. And then we drew lines in the sand, quite literally, and divided ourselves. So what happened to just being a global citizen, which is what I think I am. I mean, both of our families were only like second generation in this country. Like we weren't the Native Americans that were here for the last however many thousand years. So I am a global citizen, and I can appreciate the global cultures and the things that every culture brings to life. And what I love about Italy is that they value the past. They value history. They value their elders at a different level than America. And you can say it's American bashing, but it's not. In America, we live to work. We work. That's what we live for. We live for the bigger house, the bigger car, the bigger this, the bigger that. We live for that. In Europe, it's different. And listen, they have their problems too. So check us out in 2 years when we're going to be talking about all of the things in Italy that are driving us crazy. But it's okay, because this is our podcast. And what happened to being a global citizen? Okay, there, I'm done.
Feel good?
No, I have more, but
okay. We'll stick a pin in it.
I'll do it later when off air, so no one has to listen to my diatribe.
I wrote a blog post, not a blog post. I'm calling it a blog post now. I'm using Instagram as a blog these days. And I wrote in Instagram a post about this topic. And the section of the post was creatives need creative environments. And what Kim talked about when she took a flight to back to Atlanta, and I was in Rome with Sophia. I had some downtime when we were eating pasta or whatever, and she was like
She's like 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, like when she was just like on an iPad or whatever. I had some time. I was by myself, so I had some time and to look around and write. And I went back during this conversation that we talked about, and I read. Kim taught me I didn't know how to do this. She taught me how to look back within a time frame on my Facebook. And I read what I wrote, and I couldn't even get through the sentences because I felt like I was literally reading somebody else's writing, and it seems silly to me because I'm talking about the apricot moonbeams coming off the terracotta roofs hitting their olive skin. Like I don't even know who the fuck it was very strange that what was coming out of me, and
it was very beautiful what was coming out. Well,
thank you, but that. Whoever that girl was is not in these shoes today. Okay, so I am not that person. And
you are that person,
but not presently. I'm not. You get the idea
because your motivation is different.
You get the idea.
Your motivation is different.
It's what we talked about with the assault on the senses. The assault on the senses is what brings that out.
But this is a positive thing, not a negative one.
So what I'm trying to get to here is that creatives need creative environments. So the environment that you're in will dictate how you behave and how you are stimulated. And I really got that point when we had that discussion last week, and I was able to, listen to Kim talk about how I was behaving, when I was able to look at the writing that I was doing, and it really made me realize how much that makes a difference. The other thing I wanted to say is, it's really important. I'm using an app called Day One, and every day I'm using it for Sophia particularly, so I can document for her through every year things that just she and I mostly do, and things that our family does as well. And at the end of the year for Christmas, I print a book. And it's basically, I take a picture of something that she and I did together or we did as a family, and then I write 1 or 2 sentences. And it's just simply a journal entry. And it produces this hardbound, beautiful book at the end of the year. And so every morning when she wakes up, she jumps on my lap in the morning. After I do my meditation, we read another, I call it a reading from the gospel according to Rob. And we read another page of it.
Oh my God.
And this book is an interesting book because it begins, day one is us moving out of Atlanta. And then it goes through 4 months of living in Europe. And then it goes to living in California. And it's like the last day of Atlanta, the entire chunk of Europe, and about a month or so of living in California. And reading the Italian part, I can watch the progression of how things change in that year. There's a book, I can't think of the book now, but a book is about a guy who rode the trains effectively from, Russia through Greece and, through Italy and all that. And he talks about how the passengers who came on the plane, no knock to Russians. The train, no knock to Russians. But he talked about how the beauty changed as he went through Sweden and not Australia. That would be a long train. Sweden and Austria and Italy and et cetera, and France. And he talked about how it changed. Well, this book gives me that similar sort of perspective in how I changed and the words that I chose to write. So I found that I'm super creative. Now, I think when someone makes a move to something that is completely different, where there's new language, the food is quite different. I lose weight every time I go there.
Isn't that great that you lose weight eating pizza, pasta, and drinking wine at lunch and dinner every day?
It's very, very
and yet
strange.
You lose 10 pounds?
It's very, very strange. But that new environment keeps you on your toes so you can't slip into the Truman Show. You are fully present because you are seeing something for the first time. You're hearing something for the first time.
You're like a baby.
You're like a baby, and everything is new.
And exciting.
Now, I'm sure that'll get old after a period of time. And right now, this is the rocket of desire that we have. This is what's expanding to us. And you never get there. You're on your way to there. There's a journey. And so we've got, another 18 months of California. But what we get to do now, which is really exciting, which is to live in an environment that is beautiful. We love it here. And this is really important. Wherever you are, don't hate on where you are. Love where you are and be excited about the next journey. And so now, our conversations are, sitting in beautiful sunshine and talking about getting our, new Italian life together. And in my particular case, I'm working on Italian citizenship because of my ancestry, but we're also doing different things. And this will be a podcast for another day. But we're looking at our lives now, and we're starting to realize that there are things that we've put in our lives that we love. I love coaching. She loves doing her network marketing business. But it's not the totality of our whole life. We want to spend, I'll be 55 this year, and, people retire at this age, and so I am looking at the second half of my life differently. And part of looking at the second half of my life is ensuring that there is income that is coming in to take care of it. So we're in the process now of creating automated businesses that will allow us to have money. And we're spending the next 18 months focusing on those businesses to make sure. Okay,
so hold on real quick.
This show has gone a little bit long. Sophia is on a break from kindergarten. She wants to say a quick hello.
Sophia, put your headphones in. We're talking about moving to Italy. So you're a 6-year-old little munchkin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a big move for you to move to Italy, right?
Well, I love it at Italy so much. I just really like it there.
Yeah. What are you most excited about moving?
Well, the new house, a lot of stuff. I love moving.
You love moving?
Yeah, it's super fun to do.
Are you excited more about the pasta or the gelato?
Both.
Both.
Pasta gelato.
Pasta gelato. Okay. And are you excited about your new school there? Or are you nervous? Or
I am both. I'm excited and nervous. I'm mostly nervous and pretty excited too. I'm both of those things. I don't know who's going to be there. I think I'm just going to have so much fun.
Yeah.
I'll just forget out.
Sophia, I have a question for you. Do you remember, I haven't prepared you for this, but when we were in Italy, do you remember how you would meet children who didn't speak the same language as you? And you would have to introduce yourself and you'd have to say, "Hi, my name is Sophia." Can you tell me if you remember, how do you say my name is Sophia in Italian?
Mi chiamo Sofia.
Look at that. Beautiful. That is a perfect way to end this episode.
And also grazie, to say hi.
And grazie. Perfecto. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And if you want to grab our free Dream Life course, then I recommend that you text the word Dream Life to
310-388-9724.
That's it. Have a great week, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
All right. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode and you know someone that needs some help in either stepping up their work hard game or their play hard game, it would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast with them to help me get this movement out there. So if you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes, take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, and I will be forever grateful. So until the next episode, excuses are over. It's time to live.